Okay guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Now, fasten your seatbelts. Here we go. Alright guys, I'm back. It's Tuesday, September 8th, and it is 10:21 p.m. I know, getting a late start, but, well, you know, I try to make it earlier and I never make it, so I'm just going to stop making excuses. Anyway, let's get right on into the news, and first, we have to thank the following people who donated via coffee. Coffee supporter, well, I guess that says it all. And Kara D. Smith gave a monthly amount. Kathy Flowers and David Crouch. Thank you guys so much. I can't do what I do without you all. So thank you so much for your support and your encouragement also through the comments and so forth. I appreciate you guys more than you know. All right. Well, let's just jump in here. And this is, well, really, I should have probably brought this to you yesterday, but I didn't, because this is from yesterday. Maybe some of you have heard this already. Black Georgia man who stabbed stranger because he felt the need to find a white male to kill, murdered his white cellmate following his arrest. Now, you would think that they would be brighter than to put him in with a white person after he just felt the need to find a white male to kill. You would think that they would find, you know, a roommate that is not Caucasian, but they didn't, and now his roommate is dead. So, the Georgia man arrested for stabbing a stranger last month, claiming that he felt the need to find a white man to kill after watching videos of police brutality, has murdered the white cellmate he was placed with following his arrest. Javon Hatchett, 19, well, that's a good name for him, Hatchett, 19, was charged with aggravated assault and possession of a weapon during the commission of a crime after stabbing a random AutoZone employee in late August. Following his arrest, he was placed in the Muskogee County Jail, and it says if convicted for the stabbing, Hatchett could be one of the first people sentenced under a new Georgia hate crime bill. On Saturday, Hatchett murdered his white cellmate at the county jail, 39-year-old Eddie Nelson Jr. Nelson was imprisoned for violating probation for failing to report as a sex offender. Hatchett's initial stabbing was one of two hate crimes against white men inspired by Black Lives Matter in the same day, both ignored by national media. A black man in Colorado was arrested for a hate crime and attempted murder after stabbing a white stranger while shouting Black Lives Matter on the same day as Hatchett's attack. Steve Sinclair, 30, stabbed 29-year-old Michael Connor while shouting Black Lives Matter and saying, "I'm going to kill you and your dog." Local station 9 news reports Sinclair continued saying Black Lives Matter to police when they arrived, according to the first officer on scene. That officer wrote that Sinclair had his hands up and said, "I stabbed him. I'm a psychopath," refused to sit down and insisted that officers should shoot him. He was arrested without incident, according to the report. The family of Connor has set up a GoFundMe as he was their primary provider and he was not able to work for at least 6 weeks. He has a 5-month-old son. I hope the dog's okay as well. Anyway, yeah, lots of stuff like that happening, but you're not going to see it in the mainstream media because it goes against their narrative, of course. All right, well, let's hang on here. Let's get out of there. And let's, hang on here, let me close some of this down because I don't need all this stuff open. Or that. All right, let's go back now and get into the rest of the news. Okay, now, yeah, this is interesting, and it's today's news. Yesterday, the pandering Democratic Party vice presidential candidate, Kamala Harris, met with Jacob Blake Sr., the father of the man shot August 23rd by Kenosha, Wisconsin police during an altercation. And when she was asked about her meeting with the Blake family, she told them the Blake family was really wonderful, adding, "They're an incredible family." Jacob Blake Jr., who was shot in the back by Kenosha police, was allegedly reaching for a knife in his vehicle as police were shouting for him to stop. Blake Jr. is currently facing 2 misdemeanor charges for domestic abuse and disorderly conduct and 1 felony charge for third-degree sexual assault that stem from an incident that took place in July 2020. Jacob Blake Sr. appears to have a long history of racist, anti-Semitic, and anti-Christian posts on social media. Fox News' Tucker Carlson shared the disgusting background of Jacob Blake Sr. on his show last week. Carlson revealed Blake Sr. posted an image of Jesus Christ's face floating in a toilet bowl on Facebook. Blake Sr. also called white people crackers and black people who support Donald Trump coons. The father of accused pedophile Jacob Blake Jr. also enthusiastically shares his support for the openly anti-Semitic Nation of Islam leader Louis Farrakhan. "I'm with Farrakhan 100%, he said. Yeah, well, perhaps when the pandering Democratic vice presidential candidate was speaking about the incredible family, she was referring to Julia Jackson, Blake's mother, who spoke to CNN's Don Lemon in an August 27th interview, where Jackson showed an amazing grace in the face of Lemon's effort to bait her into anti-Trump comment. She had nothing bad to say about the president, but had plenty to say about the rioters. For our President Trump, first, I want to say a family member, and I don't know if it was heard or not, said something that was not kind. She is hurting, and I do apologize for that. Our outburst does not reflect our behavior," Jackson said. And then also for President Trump, "I'm sorry I missed your call, because had I not missed your call, maybe the comments that you made would have been different. I'm not mad at you at all. I have utmost respect for you as the leader of our country. Like I said before, I'm not saying this to him directly. We should always get the details from the right source before we start throwing bricks. My family and I are very hurt and quite frankly disgusted. And as his mother, please don't burn up property and cause havoc and tear your own homes down in my son's name. You shouldn't do it." Kamala Harris should heed the words of Ms. Jackson and stop using racism to fan the flames in hopes that it will bring her and Joe Biden more votes. Dividing the country as a way to keep your party in power is a recipe for disaster and should never be tolerated by anyone in America, no matter which party they support. So that is well spoken, well written, and yeah, but interesting. All right, now let's go back, shall we? Of course we shall. Why shouldn't we? And this from Cat Turd, and you know I love me my Cat Turd. Can you imagine voting for someone who promises to raise the hell out of your taxes, mandate that you wear a mask, lock down your business, give amnesty and free medical to millions of illegals, etc., etc., etc.? How Democrats get a single vote is beyond me. Well, Cat Turd's not alone in that, because it's beyond me as well. I can't imagine voting for Biden under any circumstances. So anyway, let's look at this. Texas hospital insists disabled baby must be killed, but she's opening eyes and moving arms. Baby Tinsley's mother was quoted as saying, "Why do they want to kill my baby so badly?" Well, I could answer that, but I won't. September 8th, 2020, Live Action News first shared Tinsley Lewis's story back in November of 2019. At that time, Tinsley was 9 months old in the center of a court battle between her family and the hospital caring for her. She was born prematurely and suffers from a rare congenital heart defect called Ebstein's anomaly, which can ultimately lead to enlargement of the heart as well as heart failure. She also has significant lung disease. Tinsley has been on a ventilator in the ICU for most of her 19 months of life. In September 2019, an ethics committee at Cook's Children's Hospital in Fort Worth, Texas, decided that Tinsley had no chance of improvement and was in pain. Texas, against the wishes of Tinsley's mother, Trinity, the hospital insisted that Tinsley's life support should be removed and that she should be allowed to die naturally. The hospital attempted to invoke the state's Texas Advanced Directives Act, which allows for hospital ethics committees to serve as a last resort decision maker when doctors and patients cannot agree on medical decisions. The act includes a 10-day rule which requires family who disagree with a hospital's decision to remove a patient's life support to find another facility willing to take the patient within 10 days. Critics have pointed out that under the 10-day rule, criminals on death row have more rights than patients at Texas hospitals. As September 1st press release from Texas Right to Life shared a video from Tinsley's mother showing the little girl with her eyes open, waving her arms around in the air. Tinsley's mother, Trinity, was quoted as saying, "Why do they want to kill my baby so badly?" They, Cook's children, are telling the judges that Tinsley cannot move or interact, which is not true. Just watch the video. Cook Children has steadfastly refused to perform a tracheotomy on Tinsley, even though this is a standard medical recommendation for patients who require mechanical ventilation, being on a ventilator for longer than 2 weeks. In mid-July of this year, a professor in the University of Texas Medical Branch Division of Cardiovascular and Thoracic Surgery commented on how unusual this refusal is, saying baby TL should be treated no differently than any other child who has been on a ventilator this long. Tracheotomies are routinely performed for patients after 14 days on a ventilator. Baby TL has been on a ventilator for over 10 months. It is not within the standard realm of care to leave a patient on a ventilator this long and refuse a tracheotomy. There are very specific patient benefits to performing this procedure. In late July, Live Action News reported on the issuance of a temporary injunction against the hospital by the Second Court of Appeals in Fort Worth, mandating that Tinsley is not to be removed from life support until the full trial is completed. This ruling will also allow her family to legally challenge the constitutionality of the 10-day rule. At this time, Cook Children's continues to refuse to insert a tracheotomy tube, which prevents Tinsley from being transferred to another medical facility for care. The release read, "Court records reveal that Cook Children's continues to refuse to provide Tinsley a trach, indicating that they will only acquiesce to her mother's request if Tinsley is discharged to hospice and her mother agrees to a do not resuscitate order. In other words, the hospital will perform the procedure only if they can guarantee Tinsley will die, not if she is afforded care elsewhere." Texas Right to Life noted that 7 other families have come forward for assistance with the 10-day rule in 2020. And that is sounding a lot like what has been happening in Canada. It is absolutely horrific. And it's funny because a lot of people in Canada don't believe me until it happens to one of their loved ones. But yeah, here it doesn't matter. You can say, no, I don't want them taken off of life support. And they do it anyway. They can get it. In fact, they can get it within hours. An injunction or whatever to kill your loved one. Yeah, it's like that here. And this actually absolutely makes me sick. That little girl should be given every right. Why is her life any less important than anybody else's? So yeah, I think that's very sad and very indicative of what is happening worldwide right now. So let's go back. And let's look at this. This is, I am so sorry. I have had the most itchy underarm. I know that's too much information, but I'm just saying. Now, here is just goofy Joe Biden again. Joe Biden claims Thomas Edison couldn't have invented the light bulb because he's white. Say what? Yeah, this is from today. It's hot and fresh. So let's see here. During a recent campaign stop in Wisconsin, presidential hopeful Joe Biden discussed some of his theories on race, including his belief that a black man invented the light bulb, not a white guy named Edison. Okay. Speaking of a group of black people, Biden talked about how he believes the best way to confront racism, which he described as America's original sin, is to start teaching children historical facts about how black people actually invented things that are attributed to whites. People fear that which is different, Biden bellowed through his face mask. We've got to, for example, why in God's name don't we teach history in history classes? There's so much. Did anyone know before what recently happened, that Black Wall Street in Oklahoma was burned to the ground? Anyone know these things? Because we don't teach them. We've got to give people facts. What is this? Black Wall Street. The Black Wall Street in Oklahoma was burned to the ground. Well, I don't know what he's talking about, but anyone know these things? Because we don't teach them. We've got to give people facts, teach them what's out there. While a man named Lewis Latimer is said to have improved upon Thomas Edison's original light bulb prototype, Edison is still the guy that came up with the idea, at least as far as we know from history. Yeah, Biden blames Trump for Antifa, Black Lives Matter violence. Yeah, it's all Trump's fault. Perhaps these statements are indicative of his late-stage dementia, or maybe Biden actually believes the things he is saying. In any case, he continues to say them while getting endlessly patted on the back by mainstream media. Biden is also getting a free pass concerning his repeated claim that President Donald Trump is to blame for all the rioting and looting taking place in cities like Portland and Kenosha. According to Biden, it is all Trump's fault that Jacob Blake, for instance, resisted arrest, reached for a weapon, and was consequently shot by police for threatening their lives with his behavior. It is also Trump's fault that Blake sexually assaulted his former girlfriend before stealing her vehicle, which is why he had a warrant out for his arrest the day he was shot. I don't think we have any alternative but to fight, Biden proclaimed to his black audience about what he believes is the appropriate response to the Blake shooting. I don't think we have any alternative but to fight back. I don't think we have any alternative but just to go tell the truth. During an earlier campaign stop in Pittsburgh, Biden blasted Trump for supposedly igniting civil unrest in other American cities as well, including Minneapolis, where Black Lives Matter and Antifa terrorists burned down the city, destroyed businesses, and beat innocent people with weapons. Several days before Biden arrived in Kenosha, Trump was there assessing the damage that took place. His Attorney General, William Barr, has since revealed that many of the protesters who were there causing damage came from out of town and were not, in fact, locals. These are the same people, many of them, who came from out of town, Barr announced about how the same protesters from one city are appearing in many others. Out of 175 arrests, 100 were from out of town, he added. These are the same people using the same tactics that have been used in various cities, Washington, Atlanta, Chicago, now Kenosha and Portland. According to Barr, these protesters are using black bloc tactics to cause trouble, including throwing projectiles at police and literally trying to inflict injuries on police, arson, and rioting. Meanwhile, Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers told Trump not to visit Kenosha, even though he later did, claiming that the president's presence would only further the divisiveness that leads to rioting and looting. The latest election-related news can be found at Trump News. All right. So, good article. And, well, I don't know what the deal is with Biden anymore. I know he is very ill, and I think that what they are doing to him is abuse. I really do. I think it's elder abuse, and I think it's absolutely horrific, really, that they allow him out in public. And there's absolutely no way, if he ever got elected, that he could run the country. You know it will be Kamala, and of course, the deep state that will be running the country at that point. Yeah. All right. Well, let's go back now, because there's more. Always. All right. Now, let's look at this. Pelosi. Okay. Let's look at this. Pelosi calls Congress back, then won't hold a vote on relief bill to help Americans. She is something else. Something else. I don't know what she is, but she's something else. All right. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is refusing to make a reasonable deal with Republicans on a new relief bill so that Americans can get unemployment and stimulus checks. It seems she and Democrat allies want a massive spending bill that addressed much more COVID fallout, Congress then went into recess, putting the relief package in jeopardy. Now Pelosi is demanding the House return from recess because Democrats want to pass a bill that provides billions of taxpayer dollars to the post office instead of passing another round of relief checks to help struggling Americans. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is rejecting calls to pass a bill that would extend the enhanced unemployment benefits that expired on July 31st. And why does she care about people that are unemployed or might need those stimulus checks? Why would she care? She's got, what, 22 million, or maybe it's even more than that. It's a lot of money she has. And, you know, I don't even think she realizes how the other half lives. She should be made to realize it. When pressed on whether Pelosi believes Democrats can reach an agreement with Republicans on a relief package, she said, "I do, and I don't think it's done by giving them an out. I think it's done by making them come into negotiations." She claimed Senate Republicans could put poison pills all over it and it would likely pass because it's hard to vote against extending unemployment benefits. When pressed on whether Pelosi believes Democrats can reach an agreement with Republicans on relief package, she said, "I do, and I don't think it's done by giving them an out. I think it's done by making them come into the negotiations." Pelosi, true to her nature, refused to take responsibility for the failure of the House to pass a new relief bill. Yes, it's never her fault, always somebody else's fault. Yes, it wasn't her fault that she was caught not wearing a mask in a salon that was not even open to the public. But yeah, it's the only thing I did wrong was falling for a setup. Right. Well, do we want somebody that falls that easily? I mean, if it's true, if it was just a setup, do we want somebody that falls that easily for a setup? Or, on the other hand, do we want somebody who fails to take responsibility for her own actions? Or inactions, as the case may be. She gave a long list of things she claims she wants to do, including stopping the virus and helping feed insecure children. Feed insecure children. Oh my gosh, that's funny. I don't care who you are. You're insecure? Here, have a donut. But she also slipped in vote by mail initiatives, which is another reminder that Democrats are still trying to exploit the coronavirus pandemic to get funding for their liberal agendas. That is what she's been after all along. Well, yeah. Pelosi might be living in a dream world if she thinks Trump will sign off on mail-in voting. He's made it very clear that he doesn't support it. So it seems Pelosi is preventing aid from reaching Americans hurt by Democrats' lockdowns, all to force an agenda nobody wants anyway. The choice this November could not be clearer. And boy, that is certainly correct. I wouldn't vote for a Democrat even at gunpoint. I mean, that's how serious I am about this. I mean, really, I don't know what's happened to the Democrat Party, but this is not the Democrat Party of old at all. Nowhere near. All right, now this from Charlie Kirk, and he said if the media was honest, they would be reporting on the fact that 300,000 veterans died waiting for health care while Joe Biden was in the White House, instead of an anonymously sourced story about President Trump, which we all know is not true. And there's been 10 witnesses that were actually there that have also stated, nah, it's not true. Yeah. All right. Well, let's go on because we can. And let's look at this. Biden again. Watch, move it up here. Biden appears to give his staff teleprompter instructions during awkward question and answer. I've got 2 words for you. Elder abuse. Well, I could not agree more than what Wayne Dupree has stated here. It is definitely elder abuse. Now, excuse me for a moment. Trying not to cough. All right. Well, this isn't going to be a huge shock to anyone, but it appears that Biden is using a teleprompter just to answer simple questions from his supporters. During a live question and answer on NBC, a half-dead looking Joe Biden awkwardly asked someone, we're assuming a staff member, to move it up here before answering a question. Well, you don't think that he could actually answer things off the cuff, do you? I mean, would anybody trust him to do that? No. So let's take a look here. I'll make it bigger.
What will your administration do to help them give him that chance? Thank you.
Move it up here. You know, there used to be a basic bargain in this country.
So that's it. And he does. He looks like he's almost having a heart attack there. And he says, move it up here. I feel very sorry for Joe Biden. I mean, I don't, but in this instance, I do, because he's obviously ill. And what they're doing to him is absolutely sickening. It is elder abuse. So, let me see here. Good grief, this man clearly needs some medical help. He sounds like he can barely breathe. How can Democrats not see this as elder abuse? In YouTube comments on this video, the YouTube comments on this video reaffirm that Biden just really needs to sit this one out and check himself into a retirement home. Joe looks confused, exhausted, and about to keel over. Jill needs to put a stop to this elder abuse. Laughing my effing ass off. It's like he's having an acid trip or something. How is he going to stand longer than 3 minutes at a debate? Sure sound like he's having a hard time breathing in this clip. Not only is his brain failing him, but now his body is too. Okay, I'm not kidding or being sarcastic here. This is elder abuse. Seriously. He's out of breath just from trying to stay alive. Let go, Joe. Text 30030. Seriously, though, how is this man going to debate Trump? He can barely handle answering softball questions. And that is most certainly the truth. I don't know. I don't think that there is going to be a debate between him and Trump, because he is obviously not up to it. And if they ever did have a debate, it would be clear for anyone who watched it that the man is not capable of running a country. He's not capable of running a 7-Eleven, really. So, I don't know. Anyway, let's take a look at this. Okay, breaking. Rochester Police Chief and entire police department command staff suddenly announce retirement following riots. So this is from today. Very interesting. The Rochester Police Chief and the entire department command staff suddenly announced they are retiring from the force on Tuesday. Do you blame them? I wouldn't want to be working as a police this day and age. Not in these cities, not in a Democrat city anyway. The announcement comes after several days of riots and violence in response to body cam footage showing a March incident involving Rochester police and a 41-year-old black man. After days of protests against the Rochester Police Department in light of the death of Daniel Prude, its top officer and command staff announced Tuesday they are retiring from the force. Rochester Police Chief LaRon Singletary said in a statement that he was honored to serve the city in upstate New York for 20 years and commended his staff. However, he said the protests and criticism of his handling of the investigation into the March 23rd incident are an attempt to destroy my character and integrity. As a man of integrity, I will not sit idly by while outside entities attempt to destroy my character, he said in a statement. The members of the Rochester Police Department and the greater Rochester community know my reputation and know what I stand for. Mayor Lovely Warren informed the Rochester City Council that in addition to Singletary, the entire command staff announced its retirement today. She noted that none of the police brass were asked to resign. Deputy Chief Joseph Morabito was also among those retiring. He had served on the Rochester Police Department for 34 years. It has also been my honor to serve this community through these many years, a community I was born and raised in and deeply love, he wrote in a statement. Violent Black Lives Matter militants took to the street of Rochester, New York Friday night, destroyed restaurants, sent diners running, and then roved into residential neighborhoods. The rioters climbed on people's homes in the middle of the night. Well, that is the end of that, but is this no, it's not. It's just a screenshot. So yeah, you can see them there. They're climbing on people's homes, which I think would be terrifying. I mean, to say the very least, very terrifying. So isn't that something? But you know something? I don't blame the Rochester Police Department for retiring and just, or I guess, retiring. They're retiring. Can't blame them. You can't police with your hands tied behind your back, and that's what they've done to these officers. They really have. So it's not safe for them. It's not. And obviously, you know, the mayors and state senators, they don't care. They don't care. So yeah, I'd resign too. All right, let's go back here. And let's look at this from Charlie Kirk. Kamala Harris called Jacob Blake's family incredible and expressed support for their son despite the fact he had a warrant out for his arrest for sexual assault. Compare that to how she treated Brett Kavanaugh's family and ask yourself if she's fit to be vice president. And of course, I think we all know the answer to that. No. All right. Now, let's just go on here to the next item, because there's more. There's always more. New York Police Department says over 100 extreme race and anti-police rioters caused $100,000 in damage with just one night of unrest. This is from yesterday. The numbers from the anti-police protest in New York City borough of Manhattan on Friday were pretty impressive, in a way. An estimated 150 protesters, 8 arrests, and about $100,000 in damage. There were 2 busted up Starbucks, according to the New York Post. 5 banks also had their windows broken, as did a pharmacy. At least the demonstrators didn't take their own advice on what one ought to do with one's local police department. Every city, every town, burn your precinct to the ground. About 300 people are near Lafayette and Canal in Manhattan chanting "Every city, every town, burn the precinct to the ground." New York City protest updates 2020. An advertisement posted on Twitter said the rally was being organized by the New African Black Panther Party and the Revolutionary Abolitionist Movement, 2 extremist groups whose platform make for charming reading if you like your Maoism with a side of "Gimme Shelter" attached. The groups were demanding the immediate dropping of all charges against demonstrators and riots. Let me see now. No. So, and it says, this is from New York City ABC, "Tonight is the night. We call on everyone who stood up during the George Floyd uprising and all supporters to come out and say, drop the charges for all who have fought for our liberation. This pivotal movement is making history." Yeah, but not the way they think. Whether felony or misdemeanor, property destruction or civil disobedience, we reject the divisions externally imposed on the movement by the state and insist that all charges be immediately dropped. A statement from an earlier such event on the Revolutionary Abolitionist Movement's website read, "Yeah, those ridiculous externally imposed divisions of what kind of crime you've committed, at least I assume that's what we're talking about, although I'm guessing the movement's copywriters aren't necessarily the best and the brightest." Yeah, you can say that again. In any event, there are now 8 more people with such charges, and here's some of the damage. You see, well, there's nothing there for us to see the damage, so I don't know. Between 6 p.m. started the rally in Foley Square, and when the New York Police Department began serious involvement, numerous businesses had their windows smashed. Footage from WNBC TV in New York showed a small group of troublemakers who were breaking windows. And exclusive, as protesters take to the streets of New York, a small group of troublemakers are seen smashing windows. We know of at least 8 arrests tonight. One store worker says he understands the protest but doesn't get the destruction of property. Well, he's not alone, because none of us understand the destruction of property and how that brings justice for, somebody killed. I'll never know. And a lot of these businesses are black owned. That's what gets me. Why don't their Black Lives Matter? This might have been a small group in terms of the demonstration itself, but the problem with extrapolating this to the wider rally is that it didn't just curdle into property destruction, but began with it. In Foley Square, where the crowds coalesced, reports were that demonstrators were already lighting fires in trash cans, which is seldom a good sign. You're in for a mostly peaceful eve. And of course, you had the typical specter of outside influences. In this riot, one of the individuals arrested reportedly was from Portland, Oregon, and another from Iowa. New York Police Department swoops in behind the crowd, making at least one arrest. Some kind of smoke bombs have been deployed. Sergeants overheard arguing about using the radio to coordinate. In addition to the 8 arrests and the 6-figure tally for damage, police also discovered 2 stun guns, some smoke grenades, and tools for burglary and graffiti. They also scrawled abolition on the side of buildings, the Post reported. The rally came one day after a car drove through a Black Lives Matter protest in Times Square. That garnered considerably more attention, even though there was only one report of an injury, according to NPR. This Friday march went by the home of City Council Speaker Corey Johnson, who had called for an investigation of Thursday's incident. Of course, another name looms large in this whole thing, and that's of New York Mayor Bill de Blasio. De Blasio, like any Democrat in charge of a major city, has tried to walk the tightrope of dealing with leftist outrage while still keeping some semblance of law and order, and has failed generally on both accounts. De Blasio's 2021 budget for the city purportedly shifts $1 billion from the New York Police Department's budget in what counts as a pretty significant defunding. This number, City and State New York noted when the budget was announced July 1st, still relies on some pretty deft accounting tricks, but the intent to defund is still there. He had Black Lives Matter painted out on the street in front of Trump Tower in one particularly ham-fisted moment. He granted protesters rights he refused to any other group, including religious congregations. This hasn't stopped people from protesting against him, the latest group being teachers upset at returning to classrooms. They have employed the left's favorite tactic at the moment, protesting outside de Blasio's home. New York City's crime rate is skyrocketing. The mayor has been ripped by New York Democratic Governor Andrew Cuomo, among others, for not doing enough to stop rioting. The media and the left have criticized him for doing too much to stop it. Too much to stop it? He hasn't done anything. Where is he on this? Nowhere. New York City has perhaps been hit harder than anywhere by the virus, with talk about residents fleeing to the suburbs. You would think he would be the latest Democrat forced out into the spotlight to forcefully say, yes, rioting and looting are deeply wrong, and he'll be enforcing the law. At least for right now, though, he's not willing to do that. Meanwhile, more businesses get their windows busted out by destructive protests. He's simply not going to call out. With the last one out of Manhattan, will the last one out of Manhattan please turn out the riots? This article appeared originally on the Western Journal. All right there. So that is what's happening in New York, and really crime is skyrocketing. I mean, really skyrocketing, and more people are fleeing New York, which is, it's sad. It's sad. But if I was there under the circumstances, I would get out as well. If I possibly could, I would. All right, now let's take a look at this. Biden receives 4 Pinocchios for wildly false ad attacking Trump over plan that doesn't exist. Now, this is from yesterday. The truth is that Biden campaign lied, according to the Washington Post, which awarded the campaign its maximum rating for untruthfulness over a recent ad. The ad puts a highly unfavorable spin on President Donald Trump's executive order that created a payroll tax holiday. The order did not end the payroll tax, which funds Social Security, but deferred it. Trump's order was accompanied by comments from the president saying that he would like to see the tax eliminated in the future and that if reelected, he would seek to make that happen. The Biden ad claimed the chief actuary of the Social Security Administration just released an analysis of Trump's planned cuts to Social Security. Under Trump's plan, Social Security would become permanently depleted by the middle of calendar year 2023. If Trump gets his way, Social Security benefits will run out in just 3 years from now. Don't let it happen. Joe Biden will protect Social Security. Well, not quite. As the Post noted, Stephen Goss, the chief actuary of Social Security, was asked by 4 Democratic senators to respond to hypothetical legislation that would mandate a 0% payroll tax. The senators wanted to know how long it would take for Social Security to run out of funds if no money flowed into its coffers. I'm not aware that anyone has proposed the hypothetical legislation you described. Goss reposted in his reply. He then said that if there was no new money flowing, the fund would dry up in 2023. However, Goss also said that if any new legislation used the U.S. Treasury's general fund instead of the payroll tax as a source of funding to meet Social Security's needs, which is what Trump proposed, the projected depletion date of the trust fund reserves would be essentially unaffected by the legislation. Out and out lies by Joe Biden. Are we surprised? No, not at all. No. What that means, according to the Post, is that Democrats ginned up a letter from the chief actuary to describe a plan that does not currently exist. Trump certainly suggested he might eliminate the payroll tax, but then he pulled back from that idea and reiterated that any diversion for a payroll tax holiday would come out of general funds, reporter Glenn Kessler wrote. The ad implies that there is a reality that simply does not exist, he said. The ad referred to Trump's planned cuts, but there are no planned cuts, Kessler wrote. The ad cites Trump's plan, but the actuary's letter said it's referring only to a hypothetical plan sketched out by Democrats. The Post pointed out the Biden campaign ad misrepresents Goss' letter. The ad asserts that if Trump gets his way, benefits will run out. But actually, the letter says transfers are made from general fund. I can't read tonight. The ad asserts that if Trump gets his way, benefits will run out. But actually, the letter says if transfers are made from general funds, no benefits would run out. That, at least at the moment, is what Trump says he would do. That adds up to 4 Pinocchios, Kessler wrote. On its rating scale, no whopper is a bigger lie than one that receives 4 Pinocchios. The White House and Trump campaign pushed back against the ad. The president was referring to making forgiveness of the temporary payroll tax deferral permanent. White House spokeswoman Sarah Matthews told the Post President Trump wants to fully fund and protect Social Security, as he has stated numerous times. Trump campaign spokesman Zach Parkinson added in a statement, Joe Biden and his campaign scare tactics are a sad attempt to distract from his own record. President Trump and administration officials have repeatedly said he wants to make the payroll tax cut deferral permanent to help America's workers. The president has been clear his payroll tax cut will have 0 impact on Social Security or the seniors that rely on the program. He supports transferring money from the government's general coffers, protecting the program's trust fund, Parkinson added. America's seniors can rest assured that President Trump will always protect Social Security, unlike Joe Biden, who bragged in the 1990s about his efforts to freeze benefits. This article appeared originally in the Western Journal. So, yeah, another huge, colossal lie by Joe Biden. But is it really Joe Biden that's coming up with this? Of course not. I don't think Joe Biden, he's not even there. He can't come up with this stuff. He's just acting as a puppet, and there is someone else pulling those strings. Maybe not one person, maybe several, but he is not acting on his own behalf, nor making decisions for himself. You can be pretty much assured of that. All right. Well, let's go back now and let's see here. Let's go here. I can't remember what this is, but yes. Hang on here. Now, Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms responds to a weekend of violence in her city, describing a perfect storm and pointing to President Trump, saying his lack of leadership is stirring emotions which are playing out as violence in the streets. Now, that's not going to work anymore. And I know that that is the narrative they want to go with, but that's not going to work anymore. Now, let me make this bigger for you tiny phone people. Always thinking about you. I know. Don't thank me.
That's the question that we're all asking ourselves. And ironically, I found a note on my desk, and I don't even know the context in which I wrote this out, but I said, I don't know the answers because I often don't even know the questions to ask. And I was listening to Mayor Lightfoot. She summed it up. We talk about systemic racism and the trauma and the anxiety and all these things that are happening in our communities, and it is this convergence, and I hate to use the word perfect storm, but it's where we are in this country right now. And you think about the leadership or the lack thereof that we have coming from the highest office in the land. I think that you are seeing so many emotions play out, and so too often it's playing out in violence in our streets.
I want to come back to this concept in the community of a perfect storm, but I do want to ask about the family first. We know the family last night was calling on the community to work to help find who killed their daughter.
Okay, now this is 5 minutes, almost 6 minutes long, so I'm not going to play the rest, but you can clearly hear that the mayor of Atlanta is blaming Trump for all the violence. Right, yeah. Not getting how they come up with that, but, well, she's a Democrat, so she's never going to accept responsibility for the violence in her own city. Of course, let's blame it on Trump. Yeah. Well, we're not falling for that anymore, I don't think. Okay, and let's look at this. This is bizarre. And if you're on Twitter, you've probably seen this today, but I was like, what on earth? Now, this is Barack Obama, and he said, great to catch up with our next Vice President, Kamala Harris. I want to make sure to share a few tips about serving alongside our friend, Joe Biden. So, it's supposed to be humorous, and he's sharing tips about, how to work alongside Joe Biden. Well, let's listen to what, and I'm not going to play, it's 4 minutes and 55 seconds long, and I'm not going to play it all, but I do want you to hear a couple of things that, to me, sound very strange.
Hi.
Hey.
Good morning. Hi.
What I remember from the campaign trail is even with a supportive family, it can still be grueling. You got any tricks of the trade?
I work out every morning, regardless of how much sleep I've had. It's just the best way to start the day. For months, I couldn't find weights to order weights. They were sold out, so I had these liter water bottles that I filled, of course, with water and used them as hand weights.
That's resourceful. There were times when I was like in rural Iowa town, and the only treadmill was in the back of a beauty salon, and I'd be walking by, and women be looking, why is this guy there? Do you have like a playlist that you're working?
I've got my playlist. I love some Mary J. Blige, and also, you know what? I really also, as a break in the day, I love is to FaceTime with the kids in my life and get a sense of the world through their eyes, and talk to them. How are you feeling about things? What is your day like?
The other thing that I think is, for me, was always great was those moments, and you never knew when they'd come, when you just have a conversation with, maybe it's a security guard in a building, or
Yes, for
maybe
sure.
it's
That's right.
some young kid who runs up and said they ran for, student council, and
That's right.
do you have any advice? Right, just those small interactions,
Right.
somebody one-on-one, right?
That's right. And those conversations, because also people of our country
I'm
really
wondering
are
because I saw a much smaller clip and it just had the part that I was trying to get to. So let me go forward and see if I can find it.
you to keep it real. And obviously that is critical if we are to lead effectively. So tell me
Okay,
about
here it is.
Joe and your relationship with Joe, and what do I need to know? Like, what's the thing about the ice cream? He loves ice cream. Tell me about that.
Well, listen, ice cream is big. Pasta with red sauce, he can go deep on that.
So I just find that odd. He loves ice cream. He also loves pasta with red sauce. He can go deep on that. I don't know. Now, maybe you're going to say, well, I think you're nuts. I think you're trying to find something where there is nothing. But what we know about pasta and, I don't know. Just seems a little odd to me. And this whole thing is very odd to me. This whole interaction between the two of them is odd, if you ask me. And you're listening to my channel, so I would assume that you want to hear what I think, at least.
He really does like those aviator glasses. He knows he looks good in them. But look, the main thing to know about Joe is that Joe has never lost his sense of why we do this.
Yeah. We do this why?
And we do
Yes.
it because of, for him, memories of his family back in Scranton, and then the people in Delaware that he represented.
Anyway, I don't think he's caring about the people that he's supposedly representing. But, this is looking mighty institutional, like this place where he is. This certainly can't be his home, I wouldn't think. I mean, look at the table. That is, like a boardroom type table. And here's a, what do you call that? A fuses box, which, in a home, I don't know, just doesn't look like he's in a home setting to me. But, I've been wrong before. I'll probably be wrong again. So let's go on from there. Let me know, guys, though, what you think of what they said about, he loves ice cream and pasta with red sauce. He can go deep on that, or in that, or something. Deep on that, I think. Very strange. Anyway, let's go back here. And this is from The Hard Truth. All Black Lives Matter is accomplishing with their violence and bad behavior is demonstrating why some of the people they represent got shot in the first place. Their worst enemy is not white people or police, it's themselves. Now, that is well stated, and I happen to agree 100% with that. So, I'm going to cover, let me see, how long have we been going here? We've been going 52 minutes, so I'm going to at least go one more, maybe two. And let's look at this. James Wood, he's always good. Yeah, this is weird. It says, meanwhile, California under Democrat rule says, California ensures that 1/3 of electricity is from renewable sources. Here's how we can make it a model nationwide. A model nationwide? Really? California? The Biden plan to secure environmental justice and equitable economic opportunity. Then, let's go over here and, current power outages in Los Angeles. This is the future they want for the rest of America. And look at this. Look at the power outages. Yeah, I don't think so. I think we should pass on that. A good way to pass on that is voting for Donald Trump. So let's get to this one. And I put Biden as nuts. So, we'll see what this is. Yes, let's look at this. Joe Biden, we should add social workers and psychologists help police on 911 calls. The only person calling to defund the police is Donald Trump. What? Well, they're not even trying to be truthful now. They're just making stuff up as they go. They're just going to throw anything and see if it sticks. He already got all the Pinocchio awards, and well, let's listen to this. I'll make it bigger for you tiny phone people. You should be able to see that he's nuts too.
It's seeing them, although a lot of Pennsylvanians are seeing them because there's a lot of ads out there right now. They would say that you want to defund the police, and it seems to be trying to frighten some folks. Can you set the record straight on that?
I not only don't want to defund the police, I'm the one calling for $300 million more for local police, for community policing. I also think we should add
He's making that up.
social workers and psychologists help police on 911 calls. The only person calling to defund the police is Donald Trump. Look at his budget. He calls for cutting police funding for state and local health
doesn't.
by $400 million.
No, he
Once
does
again,
not.
He's pathological.
If you watch the ads, I'm sure you've seen them, although a lot of Pennsylvanians are seeing them because there's a lot of ads out there right now.
And
they would say
that's
that
just
you want
repeating
to,
now.
defund the police.
Like, where is he coming up with this stuff? I mean, if anyone is against defunding the police, it's Donald Trump. I mean, that's why the police association supports him. It gets crazier, and I think it's going to get more and more crazy as we approach the election. I just don't even think he cares whether he's telling the truth or not, or he'll just lie. Just lie. All right, now let's come back here and see. This from Donald Trump. They are not peaceful protesters. As Sleepy Joe and the Democrats call them, they are thugs. And it's all taking place in Democrat-run cities. Call me and request federal help. We will solve your problems in a matter of minutes. And thanks to the U.S. Marshals in Portland. So, yeah, he's willing to stop the violence in these cities. But, of course, not everybody wants him to. All right, now I'm going to save these two for tomorrow, and I'm going to end with a feel-good story. Because I can. Gosh darn it. All right. Here's another puppies and kittens one. Now, let me see. I'm going to make this bigger for you tiny phone people because you've got to be able to see the feel-good story. Look at the little baby dog. It's a little baby pit bull. All right.
Tossed aside by his mama when he was born. He's about half the size of all the other puppies. Everyone was telling me that he wasn't going to make it and not to get my hopes up. But I couldn't not fight with him. I brought Dennis home. We introduced the bottle, and he surprisingly took it very, very fast right away. We faced little obstacles here and there, but he started getting stronger. He was developing this extra sweet and extra spunky side. He was just this little spunky pit bull puppy. Then I was able to adopt him. He went from the runt to being this big old beautiful boy. It's been a little over 2 years that he's been in my life, but since I've had him, we've actually always had puppies or kitties around. These are your babies. He's kind of been the fostering boy. But for some reason, when I brought 2 little kittens home, I saw something different in him. Dennis was definitely unsure from the beginning, kind of like, okay, we've got these babies. What are they? Usually this freaks him out. And then all of a sudden, he was just obsessed with them. He'd come and lick them all over. Get his belly. watch very intently as I fed them. He would just kind of sit on my bed, making sure everything was okay. Always had an eye on them. And then as they started growing and walking, he wanted to play with them.
Gentle baby.
They would just come and start running around by him. It's like motherly instincts came out of him, even though he didn't have an actual mom dog.
Aww.
Funny to me to think about, because they're these tiny little kittens that never had any interaction with their mother cat. And then all of a sudden they have this 80-pound pit bull that's licking them all over and showing them how to drink out of a water bowl and stuff like that. So I can only imagine that they kind of looked up to him like he was their mom. He's just showing them the ropes, like, oh yeah, that was me once. I'm going to show you how to get through it.
Aww.
Eventually they went home. He was pretty confused when I came home and I didn't have kittens with me.
Where are the kids?
But it wasn't too long before we got our next batch in anyway.
Skinny, where's the babies?
Just the fact that he is this big 80-pound pit bull who loves kittens. I keep calling him Mama Guinea. He's amazing.
Now, isn't that sweet? I just thought that story was a feel-good story. It's a big, he's just a tiny, tiny little dog himself, and he grew up and he loves kittens. I'm sorry. I won't make every story about dogs and kittens, but, you gotta admit, I don't know. I just love animals, and they have so much to teach us. Really, if we could just get along like animals get along, we'd all be much better off. Anyway, that is it for tonight anyway, and I will be back tomorrow, and you guys have a wonderful evening. Stay safe, stay well, stay blessed, and please keep seeking truth, because deception bites, and it bites hard. So come back and join me tomorrow for another video, and stay safe in the meantime. Good night, guys. Thanks for watching.